My name is Ashley, and this is Let's Talk Dispatch.
I do. If you're gonna do it really well.
And I believe the world needs more dispatchers.
Around in the mud, blood, and
plus
beer.
years that I'm not working 4th of July. 4th of July.
Saying community policing, right? What about community dispatch?
So on this show, with the help of my guests, we will educate, empower, and support the heroes behind the headset.
Right.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode here on Let's Talk Dispatch with me, Ashley, the Raspy Dispatcher. I'm super excited for this episode. We're going to be learning about some stuff that we definitely don't talk about a lot. So without any further ado, my guest today has over 12 years of experience as a dispatcher, doing all the things from police, fire, and medical. And they have now transitioned into dispatching just in a new way. We've heard of traveling nurses. She is a traveling dispatcher. And we're going to talk about that and what that looks like and how that adjustment for her has been. And we're going to also talk about her journey. So I'm excited to bring on my guest today, Jen. Hi, Jen.
Hi, everyone. Hi. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you. I know you messaged me and talked about traveling dispatch, and I recently heard a little bit about traveling dispatchers when I was at Calnina, and I honestly didn't even know it was a thing. So I'm excited to jump into that.
Yeah,
So tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into public safety before we get into that.
Yeah, I got into public safety completely by accident. I was working in the ER in Forsyth County. Shout out to all my people. And a friend's mom worked for the local police department, and she was there with her father. Long story even longer, she asked if I was interested in dispatching because I was a single mom working 2 jobs. And I said, well, what do they do? And she said, they're like a secretary. Well, fast forward, about a week later, I did a sit-in in the very small rural county of Stokes. I did a sit-in in their center, and I fell in love. I knew from that day sitting in that center that this was where I was supposed to be and what I was put on this earth to do. Has it been a wonderful yet difficult journey? Yes, it is, because much like everybody who knows me, who comes across me, I'm a force to be reckoned with, and I was not going to let anybody stop me. There was no way. So here we are. Fast forward all these years later, I've worked at Stokes County for many, many years, police, fire, EMS, did all the things. And then I just wanted a bigger center. So I ended up my daughter went off to college. She's a Western Carolina graduate, yoo-hoo, alum. And so I moved out to Concord, Charlotte area, and I worked for Medic for many, many years. I also worked for rural Wayne County. You know, been there, done that, kind of in the industry. Well, I ended up back at Forsyth, where it all started, and was sitting one night talking to a friend and was like, you know, wouldn't it be great if we could go around the world and save centers and help the helpers? And and then it had a face. 2 weeks later, a week later, it had a face on Facebook and was like, hey, join us. We can travel the world and help people. So here I am.
Cool. Very, very cool. So what was it like for you getting into dispatch? So, you know, you hear it from a friend, they describe it as a secretary. And I'm sure once you got into it, you were like, this is not the type of secretary that I thought we were dealing with. And that's a common perception, right? So what was that for you getting involved in dispatch?
Well, getting involved was rough. Again, I got my start in a very rural, very small center that did all the things. They were all related in some way, shape, or form. And, you know, I was me. I was straight from Syracuse, New York, born and raised. I was fresh to the South. I had a mouth, you know, if you know me, you know, I have a lot of words a lot of times. And so I was a lot for people, and they told me I wouldn't make it. They told me that I just didn't have the passion. I had too much passion. I didn't have the right passion. You know, mean girls exist in centers, and they're very present, and they, no matter how right you do things, you question everything you're doing because you're trying to forge your way in the community and forge who you are and what you're doing and the job you're doing. But it's been very, very difficult.
And it's unfortunate how often that is, what people are saying with their experience getting in this line of work. I'm hoping that it's going down the more that we talk about dispatch, the more we say, I see you, I see you're toxic, I hope it's decreasing, but too often do people say like this is toxic, people are being mean to me, and not everyone is Jen. Not everyone goes, I'm gonna keep pushing through anyway. Some people bow out,
Yeah.
and we
I've
don't blame
seen
them.
I've seen such wonderful dispatchers that have great potential. I've seen them come and go because they didn't have the backbone for this. And, I used to, Mama Jen, if you've worked with me, I'll tell you, I like my time off. And these new
Mhm.
dispatchers that are up and coming are our only chance at that. So
Mhm.
being mean to them and bullying them and trying to rush them through training just so that it's a butt in a seat. It's
Mhm.
not. This is
Yeah.
a very, very specific job.
Mhm.
It can be very emotional. It can be all the things if you do this job. Um, but those green beans, as I call them, are our
Mhm.
future because, as Raspy says, the world needs more dispatchers. And we do. We need them all because our future, if we keep running these ones out, is AI. And that's the thing that's not being spoken. But people, we have to stop running them off and being mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
We definitely need to create the centers we want to work in, and you're right, like, we want to decrease our staffing shortages, but just getting them through training doesn't lead to retention, right? Like, if we rush them through that process and they
yeah,
feel like they're drowning, they're not gonna stay. There's no investment here. I've been doing this for a
no,
month, I can go find another job, so it's more beneficial, and I know it's hard for centers that are feeling the impact of staffing shortages to hear that and acknowledge the truth in it, but it's gonna value you more to take your time training that person to get them actually acclimated with this job rather than pushing them through just to say, another one against our, staffing shortage.
yeah.
It just goes so much farther in keeping
And
them.
yeah, and in those trainings, medic was a very lengthy training to get you to just getting on a console. It was a
Yeah.
very rigid program. But even with those rigid programs, I feel like people. Well, I don't think they're going to make it because they have quirks or they are different from everybody else. So then they label
Yeah.
as they're not going to work out. And then once they do push through and prevail through that, then they have to get out on the floor with these people and
Mhm.
prove themselves in a different light. And I have, I've traveled. I've been traveling. It'll be a year, April 13th, that I've been traveling. Woohoo!
Very
I've
cool,
gone
very
into.
cool.
I know. I know. Been to 5 different centers, and I've walked into these centers, and before the end of a shift, I can say, "That's why you don't have anyone working here. That's
Mhm.
why you have a staffing shortage is
Mhm.
because there may be only 1, and there
Yeah,
may be 10 good ones, but that 1 will for the people without the right mindset, it's a
yeah,
lot. It's a lot."
yeah. One person can make or break a center. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
we've all worked, a shift with that person, and it just
Mhm.
the whole vibe comes down, and it's just thick in
Yeah.
there, and it's like, "What? Well, this is
The
terrible. I
mood
have spent 12
changes.
hours." Yeah. "It's been 12
Yeah.
hours like this? Like, that's
Yeah.
horrible," you know? And we should the job is hard enough. I say it often. The job is hard enough.
Mhm.
We don't gotta make it harder on ourselves by
No, look, listen, this girl don't wanna make it any harder,
I'm
you know?
saying. Yeah.
And and these people in some of these centers, because of these staffing issues,
Mhm.
we talk about it, I know you are advocate for it, and so many others, 911 Wyndham, they're tired, they're burned
Mhm.
out. we arrived to this center as contractors in November here in Condon, Oregon. Shout out to them.
Yeah.
Her director figured out a way to bring contractors here. At first, we were 6 months. We're now 4 months, but she provided us housing with a small fee. We got
Mhm.
there were 4 people. 4 people had
Wow.
been running this center for like 13 months.
Wow.
You know how
Right.
tired,
Yeah.
and these people have been wonderful. Open arms, we are
Mhm.
friends. We're doing something that everybody just wants to see be great because we're doing something for a center that truthfully is exhausting. And
Yeah.
these are the centers across America. There's nights where there's single dispatchers somewhere in America, just holding the center together. And
Mm.
we have to do better. We have to.
I have to use the restroom just thinking about it. Like it,
Yeah,
you know what I
exactly.
mean? Like just alone in my center. Like I just feel like I have to pee. Like I just, it's just, and that's what the world on a big scheme. We know you travel. I know because I'm talking to so many dispatchers. The way people do this job is just so different all over the place. I
Mhm.
started at a center that there was like 80 dispatchers, and to think that there is a world where you're sitting in a center alone and
Mhm.
that's it. It's just you, and there's no one to like turn around and bounce ideas off of, or the backphone's
Nothing.
ringing, the radio's going off, and like, but people do it, and
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
tough job, and we need to talk about those centers just as much as the huge centers.
Yep. Yeah.
Mhm.
And they exist. The center we work for, we dispatch one of our counties is 3 hours away, and we're dispatching for them. So could you get into these rural areas, and if you look at Condon on a map, it's a dot in the middle of a canyon.
Mhm.
But so you get into all this, and I forgot where I'm going with this. Ashley, tag this.
Because that's how passionate we are. We sometimes we tangent and we lose our thought. I do all the time. I probably just edit it. You guys don't see it, but
I know that was terrible. I was on a roll and then I lost it. I
no
love it.
worries, no worries. We were talking about
Oh,
small centers, and
yeah,
acknowledging the
yeah.
work they're doing.
Yeah,
And
to my small center people, we see you. We
yes,
we would love to help you. We would love to come in. Wendell and I, my dispatching duo, as I call him. We wish that we could come to all of
mm.
you, and just give you a pee break, let you eat your dinner. I mean,
The
because
simple things in life.
yeah,
Just wanted to take a
yeah,
pee in peace and eat my food warm. That's
yeah.
the reality of the work we do.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
as Ashley's pushing, the world needs more dispatchers, and that's why.
Mhm.
And
True.
and we're trying to change the stigma of it.
Mhm.
But Ashley's gotten in a place where she's able to change her centers, but there's so many centers that can't get somebody in that position to be able to change it. So
Yeah.
it's hard.
Yeah, and now before we dive into all the traveling because I have a lot of
Yeah.
questions, I just wanna circle back real quick. Do you remember any of your early calls for service and what that was like diving
Yes.
into that at first?
Yes. I remember them all, and I swear it's what's forged me, what's made me the dispatcher I am. You remember your first good call, your first bad call, your first pregnancy, your first
Mhm.
hanging. They're all there, and they're what haunts you. But the call I remember most, and this one has guided me, it's been my moral compass through my career, was I was working, it was Christmas Eve,
Mhm.
Stokes County, and a little boy called 911, and he just, hello? And I was like, hello? And he wanted to tell me that he got a puppy for Christmas because he had asked his mom to call his family, and his mom said it was too late. It was like 10:30. And his mom said, no, it was too late. Well, he's like, I got a puppy. And I was like, what kind of puppy? And he said, a chocolatey lab. And I said,
Aw.
and what did you name your chocolatey lab? And he said, Hershey. And that boy in that phone call, his mother heard him on the phone and, of course, was so apologetic, and
Yeah.
no apology was necessary. But
Mhm.
that little boy, the power of social media, I've watched him. He's now in school. He's a sophomore in college. And his dog Hershey lives with grandma and grandpa still.
Aw.
But those are the calls that remind us why we're doing this. My
Mhm.
favorite, if you work with me, know that it's old people and little kids. Those are my favorite calls. Those are the calls that'll break my heart in a quick
Yeah.
minute. But those are the calls that forge our careers and make them break us, because you do remember the worst of the worst, and
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
haunt you. And
Mhm.
a lot of times in this career, I mean, I worked in this career before people like Travis Howes and yourself and all the 911 Wonder Woman were forging a career about mental health.
Mhm.
And you had to find an outlet. You had to find that one good call
Yeah.
in the needle in a haystack to get you to answer the next call, because there's no downtime in those small centers, as we talked about.
Mhm.
The phone rings again, you're answering it, bada bing, bada boom, you're off and
Yeah.
running. So yeah, I remember them all, some good, some bad, some haunt me,
Yeah.
but that chocolate lab and I are
Oh
still
my
tight.
gosh. I love it. I love it. And I love the fact that you're able to connect with them, throughout there, because that's something we don't get often either. It's just, like a relationship, air quotes, probably not the best word to use, but, we have these big moments with these people,
Yeah.
and we know this traumatic thing a lot of times that's happened to them. And, finding the good, finding the funny. I know sometimes people on the socials in the world of internet can get, no, that's not why you call 911 and blah blah blah. Like, yeah, okay,
No. Yeah,
sure.
we get it.
But when we have time and we can create space and we can create a memory for someone, like, we're not just all hanging up on people who call 911
Oh,
for non
no.
emergencies. It's just, we're people too. We're answering the phone. We just took a terrible call and then we learn about Hershey. Like, those
Yeah.
moments are good for
You
us too, but we're trained to, when needed, to get off those lines and
Yeah,
educate, of
of
course.
course.
But
EM EMD, I'm
yeah.
a huge EMDer. I love the program. I am APCO certified as well, but EMD, you are my people. And there's literally an outlet for that. So in these moments where you're staying online with these callers, today, your every day is their worst day. So this for
Mhm.
you may be a routine thing, but talk about those things. Talk about that new puppy or talk about that barking dog. Also remember, these we are as human as they are. Use
Mhm.
your outlet if needed. If that phone starts ringing and your partner's buried, if you have a partner, use
And
those use those outlets. Use that
mhm.
EMD quick close. And I'm sorry, I got to get off the line, because
Mhm.
sometimes the closure you need is talking to these people about that
Mhm.
person or about that incident or what's happening around them. Or can you get that dog that's barking? Oh, how long have you had the dog? Oh, the dog's protective of my husband, and my husband is the one we're coming for. Learn those things about people in these calls, because it
Mhm.
might just be the one thing that gets you to the next call, that makes you pick up that next call, because
Yeah.
it was a good experience. And my favorite in my career, I love when you're yelling and screaming at me, because it's perfect time for me to get you by the end of that call to say thank you. That is
Yeah.
my life.
Challenge accepted, for sure.
Exactly. That's that. I
Yeah.
aspire with those ones, with the harder calls, and everybody should take those harder calls and just aspire to do better on them. Aspire to get those people, rallied in, talk to them, get them to trust you, trust the system, trust what we're
Mhm.
doing, and
Mhm.
get them at the end of the call to say thank you for your
Yeah.
help.
Yeah.
Because
And it's always interesting, like, what people yell about, right? Because it's all these, like, things. I was recently, I got a call and they were upset that we didn't have any officers going to this disturbance. It was like a reckless driving, people meeting up with their fancy cars.
Mhm.
And we had no officers available. It was an extremely busy, they were all on high priority calls. It was wild. Like, it was a wild day. And this guy's calling, he's just yelling at me. He's like, "You're telling me no one's available?" I'm like, know what's available.
Yeah.
So my literal definition of this job is to take the call, send it out.
And send it out.
So the longer it sits there, the longer my anxiety is just rising. So
Exactly.
if I
Exactly.
could, I would. But there's a disconnect, right? There's a I'm angry caller. This is my issue and I want it solved now. And that's
Mhm.
the reality that we deal with as dispatchers is our need as people to have an instant response, an instant solution. And it just doesn't work like that, unfortunately.
No.
But the more we
No.
talk about what we do, the more we try to educate citizens about the realities of that process, the less
The
hopefully we're going to get yelled at for things that are out of our control.
of our
But
control. Yeah.
people are going to people.
Yeah. I'm a huge advocate. I wish I could be in every school with every child, educating them on, at a young age, how to use these resources, how to use 911. I know my daughter, she's 25. Shout out to her. She's lived this business with us. She has grown up in this business. And she'll tell people, hey, when you call 911, my biggest advocate for older people is keep your landlines for your senior population. If you have young children, keep your landline because, 911 towers and whatnot, the world of, we live out here in Condon, we don't have service half the time, so keep those landlines to lessen the anxiety of these terrible callers that have already decided they're going to be mean to us. They're going to yell at us. Yeah.
And I know landlines are super important. Like you said, if you have older folks or if you have younger kids who may not have the language or, the mind to be able to tell locations and addresses, it's definitely a big thing that folks should have a landline for sure.
Yeah, but to educate our public on what 911 does and doesn't do and what we handle and what the officers are doing during those calls for service for the driving incidents. My least favorite, but we do have to have them because those incidents occur, but they have to realize that as much as we're trying, there are things that supersede that.
Yeah. Well, now we're going to dive into it because I'm curious. I'm ready. I want to know. We've all heard about traveling nurses.
Yes.
Traveling dispatchers exist. So what is
do.
a traveling dispatcher?
So I now independently, I'm an employee of a center here in Condon. I'm a part-time employee, but I'm a contractor. So we are used by the center in whatever capacity they need. Their board approved us to have housing, which again, we pay a small fee for, but they arrange for us to have housing. We work in these centers 6 months, 4 months, whatever our contract is. And we do everything like a full-time dispatcher, everything that they train their other people, except we do it with limited resources because you don't know geography, you don't know, the call units, we don't. So we jump into these travel positions with both feet. We walk into these centers with a very open mind to ultimately give them the time off that they need or to catch their center up. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to think. So I did work for a company prior to going independent. She kind of forged the dispatcher on demand. I did leave them in October because Jessica Lynch here in Frontier learned how to do this without a company. She learned how to do it directly, have these people directly work for her center, be paid by her center, and learn just her center for good chunks of time. So those people, in the dispatcher on demand program, are forever changing. There's forever a new person. So I don't believe that that's a help to these centers because for us to come in and travel, learn geography, learn the radio systems, learn their unit numbers, your unit quirks. We all have that law enforcement officer that has quirks and he wants things done his way or her way, and that's the only way. So doing this independent contract travel, gives us an opportunity to be in these centers for a length of time. We started in January in this center. We signed for 6 months initially, me and my dispatching duo window. We signed for 6 months. We are extending for 4 months because we want to see Oregon in the summertime because the wintertime here is terrible. And we try to see as much as we can, but those centers, they can count on us. They know we do get. Jessica makes sure that we get time off at the end of each contract to go home, see our families. I'm currently coming up on that myself, going to North Carolina to see my daughter. But yeah, we just act as regular employees.
So I lateraled to my agency that I'm currently with, and I'm traumatized. I don't want to lateral ever again. I don't want to learn a new system. I don't want to do it. And so the idea of traveling dispatch and sitting down to a console with a new system, a new protocol, a new, like, what does that look like? Like, do you guys go through like a real speedy training? Do they give you like plain language, or like what does that look like for you guys?
We are basically hot and ready. When our fannies hit the seat, we're all at a point in our careers that we feel like, take a deep breath, take the opportunity to learn the system, but you have to do it very quickly because you are expected when you hit that seat to be that seasoned dispatcher that you sell yourself to be. I sell myself as one that can do it, but not everybody can, because it's very overwhelming. It's very scary. I took several deep breaths on several. But I also, like I said, this has been the best place I've contracted at, where those 4 employees have to be your resource. I've called them all hours of the day, at night. We hit some really big hurdles joining this center and getting the center to where it's at currently. Recommend screens. They had recently got the new system Flex. Not really sure how it works or which way it works, which was fortunate for me because I had experience with Flex. So, I was able to bring something to it. Again, I'm an EMD, huge advocate. I was able to help on that side and every day help a little more, getting people to where they need to be. But it's horrible. It's horrible. And you have to be very tenacious. You have to really, I know all of us, myself, because when we started this program, the OGs are myself, Wendell, and Ellie from Kansas. Love her. We really were the first to ever do it like this. Motivations had been in their center, and they had worked with the contracting dispatchers. But again, those dispatchers come in for a week, 2 weeks, but then they're gone. And then they get a new one that's gonna come in and be gone, perpetually a week or come back, So having us as permanents in the seat covering those shifts, it was a big change for everyone. And
and theoretically, while you're contracted there for 4, 6, 8 months, however long it may be, I'm imagining they're doing their own hiring. They're doing their to fill you. And then they're probably letting them slow roll through training. They're not feeling like they have to rush them through training like we talked about earlier, right?
Yeah. We've got 3 here now, 3 girls, all younger. They're early 20s, mid 20s. Wonderful potential. Wonderful. But with that said, we are trying to escalate their training process because they want to get more in. Their goal is to have 14 full-timers. So with these girls, it makes 9. So they still have some hiring to do. But there again, we get into the fine line of how hard do you push them before we've pushed them too hard and we've pushed them out the door. And they're relying on us as contractors as well to train them and get them up and running. So it's a fine line of it's a fine dance.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
really is, because you
yeah.
want these centers to succeed.
Well, and hopefully, which, we're promoting a lot with the things that I'm doing and the session I just did. Hopefully, the center is being transparent with the people who are signing on for this, right? And like
Yes.
they know that it's escalated. They know, we got contracted people in here. We need you to be committed to learning this and
Hmm.
getting through this process. I think sometimes the disconnect happens when we don't have those honest conversations and we just expect people to be okay with being pushed
Yeah.
through. So hopefully in those centers, in those situations, we are being honest with our applicants about our process and why it looks like that. And we're being supportive, because if we're
Yeah.
getting through a toxic environment, it's like, why am I doing this? Versus everyone's helpful. We all get it. We're all trying to make each other better. And that's a better
Yeah.
situation to get pushed through training in.
And yeah, they'll do so much more. They'll grow so much better if we, give them a little bit of nurturing, but escalate it along.
Yeah, heck yeah. Well, so for people who are hearing this and they're like, "Oh man, this sounds kind of nice. Something I would consider doing." For the person in me who's like knows my paycheck down to the dime before it gets
Right?
there. Like what does that look like? And not necessarily like the dollar amount you're getting paid. That's not what I mean, but like the security of it is, since you're contracted, do you guys have like another contract set up? Like what does that
See,
look like?
right now that's looking very grim to us. That's why we've
Mhm,
extended 4 months.
mhm,
Wendell and I really are trying to promote the travel and promote this
mhm.
in centers, but it's very difficult because centers it's new.
It's never been done before. Yeah,
No, nobody's
100%.
ever done it.
Yeah.
Um, when Mo got us off the ground in April of last year, it had never been done. And what the three of us are doing here has definitely never been done because we're employed by the center.
Mhm,
So having the center figure out what that looks like to them as far as how they do it. Well,
mhm,
how do they get their budget to pass housing? How do they put us on the payroll but not on the payroll? Um,
mhm,
so the security of it is not ideal, um,
mhm,
because it's still so new and it's still
mhm,
such a learning curve. My life coach and wonderful friend who gets me through this.
mhm,
Hopefully, we'll have a secondary plan to this, and we'll get this out there more to the
mhm,
people that you don't have to hire a corporation to come in and although like I said, I love I love Mo, I love the platform, but the consistency of having partners you can bring in independently that
mhm,
commit to you for a length of time is a much better look.
mhm.
For us as travelers, it's not a great look because we need to get more people on board, more centers
Yeah,
on board.
yeah.
We need to scream from the rooftops that this is working,
Mhm.
and we've seen it work. Um, so yeah, it's the
Yeah.
unknown right now.
Okay. Well, we have to be transparent with these things, and you guys are part of the people who are building this new resource for dispatch centers, and for dispatch centers
Yeah.
who are listening, and they're like, well, maybe this could be a thing. How do they
Hmm.
find you? How do they talk to you? How do we connect you with these centers who are needing this type of resource?
Yeah, and that's what we're working on now on the backside is how
Mhm,
we get out and talk to people. I know Jessica, our director, and our assistant director, Laura, are wonderful resources who are
mhm,
willing to talk to anybody. But how do you connect that? How do you connect point A to point B? And how does
mhm.
she tell you how to do it on your end? Because everybody's board looks different. Everybody's
Mhm.
911 center is,
Yeah,
some
all
are
the
under
money look
sheriff
different, right?
standards.
Yeah,
Yeah, sheriff standards, and some have
yeah.
they're different hoops to jump through. um, so it really is. We're trying to do it on the backside, but it's something again that is going to take time. It's going to take
Mhm,
time, and it's going to take resources to get them out. Like I said, Motivations is still up and running. I myself I'm trying to forge the independent thing just for the consistency
Mhm.
and being that constant for these centers. So yeah, for us it looks like
It
we're gonna
looks
have
like
some
you're
work ahead
figuring
of.
it out, and I think
Yeah,
and honestly, it's so fun. You know,
yeah,
you're building this thing, that hasn't been done before, so you get we call it when I was coaching basketball, you get your own keys to the gym, like,
yeah,
you're figuring out how you want this thing to be done, so when it all comes together in the end, you're creating the blueprint for someone else to be able to do it,
and
when you
that's what.
go ahead.
Yeah, and that's what we want for Condon. We don't
Mhm,
want to walk out of this place until we see what we've done. I mean, we
mhm,
see the results every day of what we're doing and where we're going and the big picture. But to be able to walk away from here in, 8 months, 18, whatever it is, to be able to walk away from here and know that they're going to be okay is
mhm.
ultimately the end goal.
Yeah,
So ultimately we want to see the end result of us coming here to a strange place, battling the frozen fog because we came in
yeah,
November to Oregon. What were we thinking?
yeah.
But we saw a vision in Jessica. We saw a vision in the whole staff that was only
Mhm,
four that had done this by themselves.
mhm.
We saw that they wanted help, and we were willing to and ready to come in and give it to them.
Yeah. No, it's gonna go such a long way to I mean,
Hmm.
you guys are ultimately like this boots on the ground consulting company, air quotes, where
Yeah,
you're going in there, you're doing the work, you're helping the people, you're getting them on their feet, you're moving on to another agency, and
yeah,
that's awesome. And I think
yeah.
that it's unique, and like you said, I couldn't do it, so I could not, jump into a seat and just start typing on a whole new system, like, it would blow my mind,
Ah,
but people can, and it's
yes,
needed, and I think it's so awesome what you guys are doing.
yeah, and we just the people that can do it and the people that are willing to do it, it is just an amazing opportunity. We've seen things that I have only wished I could have saw. You know, I spent some time in Arizona, and I came out here to Condon after that. So depending on where this takes us, my new home may even soon be Arizona as just a point place for my travels, and
Yeah,
hopefully this is, I think about how hard it was for you, even just for the raspy to get up
yeah,
and running and
yeah,
get its voice out there. And we're just trying to what we're trying to do is get our voice out there. We're
yeah.
willing and able. We will come, we will sit, we will screw up, but we will do our best to keep that environment that you're going for and to get your people the time off that they so deserve. And so, yeah, you're right. It's like we're consulting. We're just little
Yeah,
consultants all over this little
yeah, you're
world.
just boots on the ground. It's so cool. And
Yeah.
if a center wanted to reach out to you guys for this service, is there a point of contact? Is there, an email? Is there anything like that, or
Yeah.
does that work?
Yeah. My personal email, Ashley can list it. It's
Mhm.
jamarshall911 at Gmail. That's what we're using currently. Like I said, got a friend and life coach who we're bringing in that it's going to become, look for the dispatching duo. We're almost done building that platform on the socials. So
Yes.
Wendell and I have been working really hard on that and documenting our journey through this, because Wendell and I, when we met, us two were complete strangers. He had reached out to me, like so many have, when I was working for Motivations to find out about what I was doing.
Yeah.
And he he was one of the smart ones. So he postponed his travel, so to speak. Like he decided not to do it.
Mhm.
But we stayed pen pals. I had a couple really harsh calls in that time while traveling, and I didn't
Mhm.
have anybody. When you're out there traveling, I was alone.
Yeah.
It was a very, very dark place when I first started traveling with
Mhm.
Motivations. I but he was my constant. He was my due north. I'd send him an email, send him a Facebook message. We became friends through Facebook. I'd be like, and here we were. And here was this stranger that I found just the simple thing in, just the calm that said, I understand what you're going through. So fast forward, this opportunity in Oregon came up and he threw his name into the hat. Why not? He had nothing to lose. So when I met Wendell the first time on November, I think it was the 6th, that we started off, I drove from North Carolina to Kentucky, picked him up, and that was the first time we had met face to face. So here we were crossing the country together and building this and being each other's, rock through all this. So once we get all that platform built, and it should be coming soon to you if you want to reach out, touch base with us. We have a couple other persons interested in joining us in doing this. So hopefully get them, and we want to be a constant in your center if you so decide. We want to help you get some time off, spend some time with your family. So the dispatching duo coming soon to you. I don't know when.
No, it's wonderful. And when it does all pop up, and all the sites and the tags, and we'll be putting it out there for you. So
Our first plug. Thank you, Ashley.
Hey, so excited. I love new things. I love new tech. I love new ways of doing things. I love hearing about the way people are doing things that are different. And I think too often in life, in dispatch, in law enforcement, we put ourselves in boxes where it's like, well, it hasn't been done that way. So that's, insert negative word there. And it's like, well, let's try. What's the harm of trying this thing? And if it doesn't work, cool. But try it. Try the new things.
Yeah.
It could be so beneficial.
And that's one of the hardest parts going into some of these centers is I want to know why. Why do you still do that way? I started doing that in my career 10 years ago in Stokes County. Like, there's a way better way to do that. Why are we still doing it? And the answer always remains because we've always done it that way.
Yeah.
Well,
not a good answer.
How's that working for you? When was the last time you had a day off? So in changing that and creating this newness and creating this, we'll give it a whirl. Environment is real important to everybody because that's what's driving out our newbies most. Even for me, with the experience I had going from one center to another, was hard as heck. Lateral, like you said, it was like the worst thing I'd ever done in my career.
Not for the week. Not for the week.
No. You were trying to infiltrate yourself into this big center and all these people that had been there, 10, 15, 20 years. They had been doing it on pen and paper with Fred Flintstone running the calls. There's change. There's change on the horizon. And the only change we're going to see if we don't roll with it and start welcoming it and embracing it is you're not going to have a button to seat anymore. You're going to have a robot. And I'm cuter than a robot.
Right. I'm just saying, like, this is the real reason we're going to have FaceTime in our centers, just so we can
Exactly. So
awesome. So exciting. I applaud you guys. I know making something new is tough. I told you, I think before we jumped on here, like, I was looking at my old footage and my old videos, and before I had the lights, before I had a nice little background, it was rough. Okay.
Yeah.
It was looking like it was
looking like this.
Yeah, it was it was looking like it was looking new, and it was looking like we're putting out there the thing, and we're improving, and that's all you're going to continue to do is you're going to make this thing better and better and better. You're going to learn, you're going to add the lights, the flashy stuff. It's all going to come together, and it's all benefiting centers, and that's what we're all about. That's
all we wanted.
This stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and for the centers that do, have these people coming in, that these new people, pushing them out the door is only hurting yourself.
Yeah.
As far as us travelers, or if you have a traveler in your center now, I know there's a lot of animosity towards that. Most of them have homes. They have children, they have husbands, they have fur babies that are waiting for them.
Mhm.
They don't want to come
Yeah.
into your center, just like I don't want to come in your center. I want to help you. I don't want
Yeah.
to take positions. I don't want to take away from you. I want to be your constant when I'm there to say,
Mhm.
I'm not okay. I need some time off. Help me
Mhm.
do that, and
Mhm.
help the directors be able to do that for their people.
Yeah.
So yeah, so just remember, if there's someone in your center that they're trying to help you, they have a family to go home to. Don't be mean to them. Help them.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Well, as we come to a close, the last question that I ask everybody who comes onto the show is, what advice would you give to someone who's considering a career in dispatch?
Oh, sit in a center different times a day, put a headset on,
Mhm.
listen to what a dispatcher's listening to. We're not secretaries. I don't care
Okay.
what law enforcement officer tells you we are not.
Mhm.
And really get involved in that center for a couple days, different shifts, night, day, mid shift. Look at the call volume, have them tell you when's best to come in, and just find yourself. And
Mhm.
above all, don't give up. Don't ever give up. If you do get in these centers, if the raspy helps you with your interview process and get you in the center,
Hey.
because that's what she does, woohoo, you know, just know that there are people like her and I and others that really want you there, and we're
Mhm.
willing to help you in whatever ways we can. It won't always be easy. It
Mhm.
really won't. There's no sugarcoating what we do. You will hit roadblocks and hurdles, but just keep going,
Mhm.
because the world needs more dispatchers, as Ashley would tell you.
Hey.
I preach it, but it really is. It's a special art. It's a special person. Um, Cherish those older ones that are nice to you. Learn
Mhm.
from them, accepting of the criticism, and know that there's a place for you. There's a place for
Mhm.
you here in a center nearest you, helping your community. If ever there's a way to help, it's this.
It's so true. I'm, like, making a note for a title.
Yeah, block that one too, because I just wiped my mouth and adjusted in my chair.
Morty, I'll make that note. Morty, edit. Awesome. Wait, did that go? 47, edit. Perfect. So we're gonna cut that. It'll be fixed on the back end, but I'm
Yeah,
just
no
picking up from
worries.
here. It is so true that, like, there's a place for you, there's a need for
Mhm.
you. We need dispatchers. So it's such great advice. Get in these centers, put the headset on, feel the vibe. I mean, that's how I found that I was like, I can do this. I really had a
Mhm.
great sit along experience. And I was like, this is cool. I want to learn more about this. I want to give this a shot. So get in these centers. It's definitely amazing advice.
Yeah. Yeah, and educate your community. Once you get in these centers, educate your people, educate your communities, especially your younger ones. Get into, for you older centers, and for you directors that are watching, get some of your dispatchers that have a passion for the job and get them into schools, job fairs and stuff, because
Mhm,
the young ones are our hope. They are our
mhm,
lifeline. And what a
mhm,
great opportunity to get into the fire service, depending on
mhm,
how your center's classified. What a
mhm.
great opportunity to get in at 19, 20 years old and
Yeah.
do 30 years and be retired by 50. I have a wonderful partner who's still in it, who she was one of my first partners. She'll be retired before me at my current age, and I won't tell you what that is, but she'll be retired because she
Yeah,
started at 18 years old, 19 years old, getting in the center.
so cool.
Um, but yeah, and our young ones, they're they're tougher than they look. A lot of
Yeah.
ones, I've said it in my career. I've been the one, I've said it myself. I cannot tell a lie that, maybe we're getting them in there too young for what we do. But really, I've had some experiences with some young ones straight out of school that are sat in the seat who
Mhm.
have been just wonderful assets to these centers, who are now
Aw.
supervisors in their
Heck yeah.
centers.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
So amazing, Jen. Thank you so much for coming on, sharing your experience,
Yeah.
sharing this awesome new thing that you folks are building. And I can't wait to hear more.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, look for the dispatching duo. We're going to get all of this worked out, and hopefully we'll see you in a center soon.
Awesome. All right, Jen, I'll be right back with you.
Okay, bye.
Such a good episode. Everyone who's tuning in, thank you so much for joining us. Jen, again, thank you for coming on and sharing this dispatching duo that you guys are putting together. I know personally, creating a business, creating something new to put out to the world, it's tough. That's another thing that's not for the weak, you know? And I applaud you folks for seeing a need and trying to create an answer that's sustainable for a center and works. And I genuinely can't wait to see how that all develops. Jen did give her email throughout this podcast. And if you are a center whose ears are perking up because you are in the middle of a staffing shortage and never really entertained the idea of a traveling dispatcher helping to ease that load while you still recruit folks, maybe the dispatching duo is for you. And that contact email will be in the notes, the show notes. So definitely hit Jen up and see if that's a good fit. If traveling dispatch is an interest to you, I'm sure Jen would love to talk to you about that as well as they're putting all the pieces together. So definitely check her out. And I'll include all that contact information in the link of this episode. Of course, as always, if you're interested in coming onto the show, head to theraspidispatcher.com. You can have a live interview like this, or you can submit a story, submit something online as well. We have that option. And until next time, everybody, stay raspy. Thank you for listening to Let's Talk Dispatch podcast. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you're interested in becoming a guest on the show, or maybe even submitting your own story, you can do all that and more at theraspidispatcher.com.